What is the best response to an insult you have ever heard? A young girl in a restaurant was treating the waiters horribly, like a real bitch, and an older woman said to her, "Honey, you're not pretty enough to act like that." During a heated argument, my mom called my brother a son of a bitch. He replied, "Absolutely right." A girl told me that if I took my clothes off at the beach, everyone around me would go blind because I was so pale. I told her, "At least when I go to the beach, people don't have the urge to drown me in the sea." Winston Churchill is credited with this response to an insult. Lady Astaire: "Mr. Churchill, are you drunk?" Churchill: "Yes, ma'am, and you're ugly, but at least I shall be sober tomorrow." And then there's this. Lady Astaire: "Winston, if you were my husband, I would put poison in your tea." Churchill: "Nancy, if I were your husband, I would drink poison." It wasn't an insult, but I think it was just a very good answer, and I still remember it. I have two younger brothers. At a restaurant in honor of our father's birthday, about half of all the relatives showed up. I was just out of the same college as my dad at the time, and my middle brother was in his third year there. Younger brother was in his freshman year, but at a different college. At one point, the uncle said to the younger brother, "Tell me, how did your father take it that you broke the tradition that all the males in our family go to X college?" The younger brother answered after a moment. He took it quite calmly, because at least I did not break the tradition that all men in our family are taller than 170 centimeters. Everyone at the table burst out laughing, and my middle brother and I looked across the table, amazed that we had such a brave man in our family. The most amazing thing is that little brother was very humble in high school, but came out of college a confident and witty man. Before, I had always hoped that this change in his character would come sooner or later, but I just didn't expect him to become so ruthless. Here's my favorite story. Math class in high school. There was a cute nerd named Richard and a jerk whose name I can't remember. This jerk kept calling Richard Dick all the time, like, "Hey, Dick, did you solve the fourth problem yet?" The nerd would calmly answer him back, "My name is Richard." Eventually, the teacher got fed up with this and asked, "Richard, what do you prefer to be called?" He replied, "I prefer Richard." And the asshole who was bullying him blurted out, "And I prefer cock." A few seconds later, the whole class started laughing wildly, and this dude realized what he'd said and squirmed in his seat as hard as he could. He never touched Richard again after that. It was the 80s. We were teenagers, and we found this situation super witty. My friend didn't have a relationship with a girl until freshman year. A dumbass chump we more or less got along with told him one time, "When you start dating some girl, I'm definitely going to her. My friend replied, "If my girlfriend with you, she's gonna get into a lot of trouble, so just the fact of cheating will seem like the least of it." My friend replied, "If my girlfriend with you, she's gonna get into a lot of trouble, so just the fact of cheating will seem like the least of it." Shower, you can't see your own dick. The friend replied, "No, of course not. Your mom's head prevents me from seeing it." I'm aware this is from some movie, but it's still a brilliant answer. Gordon Ramsay asked his daughter on air, "What's it like being the daughter of the most famous chef in the world?" His daughter replied, "I don't know, because Jamie Oliver isn't my dad." Oops, what a humiliation. I was once criticized by my aunt, who was much older than me, for having a tooth that protruded forward. This feature gave my smile a strange look. It happened when I was a teenager, and it was said very politely. I was raised not to criticize people for their weaknesses and to compliment them at every opportunity, and that's pretty much what I did. "Auntie, you have such a nice smile, like a crocodile." Thank you. "Auntie, it's just that one tooth makes your smile a little crooked, but it's not that bad. It can still be fixed." "I guess I can, but I know for a fact I'll never have teeth as good as yours. They're like stars, Auntie." "Like stars? You mean as bright as they are?" "Me? No, you can only see them at night. My uncle gave me a book called 1001 Insults on a Variety of Subjects, and I read this one there. Doesn't your ass ever resent your kind for stealing her shit duties?" When I was in middle school, many years ago, a bully started making fun of a shy kid and said he couldn't get a girlfriend because he was a loser and no girl would give him one. That's when another bully got into their conversation and said, "Fuck, you haven't seen a vagina yourself since the day you were born. How did they get you out of there?" The whole class, including the teacher, burst into laughter. The first bully immediately shut up, changed. The teacher didn't laugh with everyone, and it didn't happen in the middle of class. It was recess. The students were just entering the classroom. The teacher heard everything, smiled, but held back his laughter. "If I'm not mistaken," he said, "finish up, boys. It's time to start the lesson." No one applauded. The principal didn't come in to applaud, and this happened 30 years ago. The first bully is now a police officer. The second one drives a truck. The shy kid works as an engineer. From the movie Casablanca. Ugarte, you despise me, don't you? Rick, if I thought of you once in a while, I'd despise you. I was told that some girls were riding in an elevator with a man, and they were saying nasty things about him in a language they hoped he didn't understand. Kind of like Hindi. They told each other he had an ugly face. The guy waited until the elevator reached his floor, looked at them, and in perfect Hindi said, "Better to live with an ugly face than an ugly soul," then walked out. Changed. I didn't realize there would be so much attention to this story, so I want to clarify a few things. First, I don't know for sure if it was Hindi language, so please stop berating and apologizing for Indians and Indian women, because it probably wasn't them. Second, I agree, this is probably just fiction, but we were asked for stories about how people responded to insults. Nothing was said about the veracity of the story. The cook in the school cafeteria put me down in front of the whole class. They were giving some kind of tuna dish for lunch. I said, "Is that tuna? I'd rather have a crappy sandwich." Without a second's hesitation, the 80-year-old lady blurted out, "Wait a little while, I'm going to the bathroom and you'll get your sandwich." Needless to say, I preferred the tuna. A popular classmate decided to mess with me and jokingly invited me to go to prom with her in front of the whole class. Without hesitating for a second, I said, "Thanks, Lauren, but I don't want to go to prom with just anyone." The whole class laughed, even the teacher, sitting in a bar at 3 o'clock in the morning on Bourbon Street. Windows were wide open. A dude who had just left the bar leaned through the window above our table to yell something to his friends who hadn't made it out yet. One of the friends who was with us said something unflattering about him. The dude leaned over to her, tapped his palm on the table, and said, "If anyone ever loved you, they sure regretted it 100 times over." Then he walked away without looking back. We're still bawling over this story. Show some respect, kid. I could have been your father. Your mom just didn't have change for a 20. I don't go to the harbor and pull sailors' dicks out of your mouth. So why are you distracting me from my work? I was playing a card game once with a friend of mine, and he started playing out of line at the beginning. I told him he couldn't do that. He refused to play by the rules, and I refused to play. And he started singing, "A circle of sunshine, the sky all around." Implying that I was acting like a child, he asked me, "Do you know why I'm singing this?" I replied, "Yeah, because you just learned that song in kindergarten today." I was in first grade and the bus was taking us home, and some asshole called me over and we had this conversation. In kindergarten, I was in first grade and the bus was taking us home, and some asshole called my name and we had this conversation. Asshole, hey, my name. Why are you acting like a faggot? I was just acting like you, the whole bus. Ah ha 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 ha. That was the best response I gave to the insult. The schoolboy behind me said cool and gave me a high five, which made me feel really cool. Later in 7th grade, I said I was gay, so Checkmate the jerk street vendor was trying to push his CDs on everyone who walked by him. The obese man told him, "No thanks, vendor. If it was a donut, you'd eat it, fat man. If it was $1 already, you'd be begging for it from me." When I was in university, I met a friend on the street with his girlfriend. I was holding a Green Lantern comic book. The friend introduced me to his girlfriend, and the first thing she said to me while shaking my hand was, "I thought only teenagers read comics." I replied, "And I thought only teenagers could have size 0 breasts." Honestly, I was shocked that someone I was seeing for the first time in my life was capable of saying such a thing, and I responded to her instinctively, but it's still my best response to an insult. The teacher asked a pretty tough question. Jimmy answered correctly, "Karen." LOL, you are such a nerd. Teacher, don't be rude to him, Karen. He might be your boss in the future. Jimmy, it's okay, I won't be her boss. I don't really want to be a pimp. Everyone in the class laughed like crazy. Today we had a lesson on our future professions. One of the students shouted, "I want to be a stripper." The teacher replied, "I'm not sure you have the talent for that." Changed. It was a boy. I'm only writing out of curiosity. I want to get your opinion on my reaction to the insult. Was it that good? Many people have told me they've never heard anything better, but mostly because I was a quiet child and it was impossible to get a rise out of me. Naturally, this provoked everyone to try to hurt me, to insult me in some way, and sometimes I was blamed for something that I was definitely not capable of doing, and the teachers realized that it definitely could not have been me. Anyway, I walked into class one day, the teacher wasn't there yet, and one girl, C, wrote a joke on the board about our teacher realized that it definitely couldn't have been me. Anyway, I walked into the classroom one day, the teacher was not there yet, and one girl, S, wrote a joke on the board about our teacher, which would definitely make him angry. This joke had been repeated endlessly for 2 years, so I don't understand what was the point of writing it again. It was a joke that only our school could understand. Anyway, I sat down at my desk. S finished writing her joke. The teacher came in and read what was written on the board. He asked who did it, and immediately a girl and her friend sitting next to her said, "It's Sabarin." I will note that we were 15 years old at the time and seemed mature enough for such behavior. I don't know what made me do that, but without a word, I went to the blackboard, corrected all spelling and punctuation errors, and sat back in my seat. Then I turned to the girl who had accused me and said, "I can actually write." The whole class laughed, including the girls who accused me, even though they were not prepared for this turn of events. And the teacher laughed so hard that his face turned red and there were tears in his eyes. Personally, I think that they were laughing only because it was me who did it, and in general, there was nothing special about such an act. We had a very annoying boy in our class who once got a bottle with a sprayer and splashed water on everyone around him, even though everyone asked him to stop. One girl went up to him and said, "Stop it." He replied, "Nope, got it. That's the only way you can get a girl wet." He said, "Nope, got it. It's the only way you can get a girl wet." In 8th grade, a boy yelled to us in the hallway crowd, "Hurry up, get out of here, you stink." To which I replied, "That's because your mouth is too close to your nose." And in 9th grade, a very large girl called me narrow-assed for no reason, and I told her, "You're just mad that my hands can reach my ass and I can wipe it." Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new super interesting discussions, and in the meantime, check out our other videos.